that night, I couldn't sleep at all. And the next night and the next night, and I'm going, what's going on? You know, you've just become a major champion. That's what you've dreamed about. And you just got married a year ago. You got a beautiful young wife. You have money. You have cars. You're on top of the world. I was ranked #1 in the world when the world rankings came out shortly afterwards. I had everything this world could offer for a 27-year-old.
27
and more. But I had an emptiness, and I had no idea what it was, no clue.
He's known as the father of German golf. He's a 2-time winner of the Masters, and it's exciting to have our guest with us. Bernhard is in his 19th season on the PGA Tour of Champions. He's the second all-time winner on the European Tour. In 2002, he was included into the World Golf Hall of Fame. Let's welcome Bernhard Langer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you're 67,
yes.
and you're shooting your age. I'm 112 shooting my age. How do you do that?
Yeah, we all shoot our age. It just depends till we get to 18 or not.
Right, exactly. Somebody said, yeah, I shot 90. Was that the first 9 or the second 9, right? You know, in that way, I mean, it's hard to be at the top of the game, whatever it is. And in golf, it's such a individual sport. I mean, how do you set the bar for competition? How do you stay sharp for all the years you've been playing?
Great question. It's a very technical and complicated game, the game of golf.
You sound German.
I do?
It's technical.
Amazing. Well, you know, we're debating sometimes which is the hardest game there is. And some people say, well, it's baseball, hitting a round object with another round object. But I think golf is right up there because we have, you know, driving, you want to hit it 300 plus yards. So you swing as hard as you can. Putting, you don't want to swing hard. you need that fine touch, or you're in the bunker, that's different, or you need a flop shot and all that kind of stuff. So it gets extremely technical, and then when you have the technique down, it becomes mental. And in my case, you know, when you play the game 50 years as a pro, you have lots of scar tissue to deal with.
Yeah.
Not so much from operations in my case, but mental scar tissue.
Oh,
you make lots of mistakes. We make decisions every day, and some of them are good and some of them are bad.
Let me ask you, I mean, talking about stubborn, you came out of the womb kind of swinging because your mother had a diagnosis of a high-risk pregnancy. What was going on there? And
I wasn't supposed to come out of the womb. My mother had one son. He passed away when he was 3 months. Then she had another son that lives. He's my older brother now, 5 years older, and my manager. Then she had another one, our sister, Maria. And when she had her, she was told by the doctor, you should never have another child, no more pregnancy, because you will die and your child will die, and then you leave a husband with 2 little kids behind. But they were strong Catholics, and in those days, you didn't abort, period. Yeah. So she got pregnant, and that was me. And so now the doctor says, you got to get rid of this pregnancy of this child. And she says, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Bernhard, that attitude, focus on the family. We are an organization dedicated to fight for those preborn babies and their moms. So I really appreciate that. I always, I was born into a poor family. I was the last born. My mom was 42 when she had me. Doctors tried to talk her into aborting me. And, we both sit here making it through that gateway into life. Does it give you a special insight or drive about that passion for life?
Well, it certainly does, and I think in my case, I believe there was spiritual warfare from the very first day. The evil one didn't want me to be alive.
Huh.
And at least that's how I see it.
Oh, I think it's accurate. The scripture says in John 10:10, the thief, meaning Satan, comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Right. And he had you right at the top of his list, it sounds like. So moving along from there, your parents were, they had a Christian understanding. I think your dad was a bricklayer, right?
He was,
Hard-working man.
Very hardworking. Got up at 6 a.m. and worked till about 10 every day.
Wow.
Only Sundays they took off. But even Sundays, my mother would work as a waitress in the local restaurant. So she had no days off. It was nonstop. And,
that's good.
you know, I was helping her when I was like 8, 9 years old to clean off dishes from the table, take them to the kitchen, or bring out a salad or something. And the people, they loved this little blonde kid running around helping. So they always gave me a little extra tip, and I loved it. Earning some money.
That's nice. That is nice. Speak to that work ethic. I mean, I don't know, you know, you're just a couple of years older than me, but that was post-war Germany. What was that environment like as a little boy growing up in what was like a rebounding country?
It was, yeah, very difficult in terms of we didn't have anything. I mean, my dad didn't have a car till I was 12. That's when he could afford his first car. We didn't have a television till I was 8, and it was black and white with 3 channels. They came on at 6 and turned off at 10. That was it.
Right. So hopefully you're not a night owl.
Exactly. And, you know, things like that. We never really lacked food because my parents worked both very hard to provide food. But in terms of clothing, I don't think I got new shoes till I was about 12 or 14. I always got the hand-me-downs from my brother. I got the clothes from my brother. You know, it was just, they didn't have the extra money.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a bathroom in the house initially that they built with their own hands. This tiny little house because my dad was a bricklayer. We had an outhouse and we used newspaper, you know, stuff like that. So it was.
What do you think those lessons taught you when you parlayed that later into professional golf? I mean, that is gritty stuff to grow up like that. Did it forge in you a certain steel?
I think it did, yeah. You know, it showed me how hard my parents had to work to make very little progress. And I think deep down in my heart, I wanted to have a better life, or a better life for my family, in a sense that my goal was to, you know, have my own house at some point in time. And I started caddying, and when I was 9 to earn some money, my parents showed me that, you know, work ethic was very important and instilled it in me. And when I came home from school, I wasn't, you know, lazy sitting around. It was, you can chop wood, you can help with the garden out there, pulling the weeds out, or you can go to the golf course and caddy. So, not totally stupid, I went to the golf course and caddied. You know, that was a little more fun than pulling weeds or chopping wood, and I got paid for it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. When you look at that drive toward golf, I mean, did you see it as an escape, or did you really have a passion for the game at a young age? When like, wow, I like doing this.
Yeah, it was definitely a passion. When I give my testimony, sometimes I say I didn't fall in love with the game immediately. I fell in love with money because I went there to earn money as a caddy. But it's, you know, within a day or two of caddying, I found the game very fascinating. I thought, man, these people are bad. You know, why can't they be better? And
let's not play golf together.
But while I was fortunate, my first bag was the club champion. So he was a handicap 2, almost a scratch. And he was fun to caddy for because he could actually hit the ball far and pretty straight.
And not in the woods.
And not too often, right? And not in the long grass and where you got bitten by bugs and things like that. But then we, you know, sometimes caddied for handicap 36, or they didn't even have a handicap. And I recall when I was about 12 or 13, I would give them lessons as a caddy. You know,
at 12 and 13?
Yeah, because I could, I'm sure I wasn't always right, but sometimes I helped them. You know, the ball position was so far off, or the grip was so bad. I just said, try this, and it sometimes helped.
Wow, that's great. They were open to that coming from a 12-year-old.
Well,
that's amazing.
So we were able to play as caddies. We had some old clubs. Actually, a member gave us 4 clubs. It was a 2-wood, a 3-iron, a 7-iron, no wedges. And the putter had a bent shaft, so I always say that's where my putting problems came from.
Bent shaft.
Well, allow me to push pause for a quick second here to thank you for joining us. And if you find this content meaningful, hit that subscribe button so we can keep growing and improving together.
At what age did you try to make golf a profession? Where were you at? Were you in your late teens, early 20s? When did somebody say, okay, we're going to help you here?
I was about in sixth grade, and my parents were able to send my brother and my sister to a higher school. I finished fifth grade in basic schooling, and I was told by my parents, okay, you're going to go to this school in Augsburg, which meant going on a bus, going on a train, leaving an hour earlier to get there. So I had to get up at 6:15 to make an 8 o'clock school, come home at 4, and then have 4 hours of homework. So imagine what my day looked like. I was used to going to school from 8 till 1, go to the golf course, do a little homework, and do that, And now I'm getting up at 6 and coming home at 4, doing homework till 8. There was nothing anymore but school. And they had a grace period or test period of 3 months. And I failed in English and in math. My grades were not good enough. And here I am speaking English. It's my primary language now. I don't speak German much anymore. So I was sent back to my local school, which meant I could go to the golf course and practice and earn money. So that's how it happened. So I finished 9 years of basic schooling. So I was 14 and a half, and I was done with school. And now I had to decide what I do with my life. So we have something called the Institute of Job Placement in Germany. So my parents took me there. I was not even 15. And the gentleman sitting across the desk said, well, young man, what do you want to do with your life? What are you interested in? I said, I want to be a golf professional. He goes, what? Say that again? I said, golf professional. I never heard of that before. What is that? I said, well, it's like a tennis professional, somebody helping people to play better golf. Give me 2 minutes. So he got up, left the room, came back and said, I looked at all the documents we have. It's not a recognized profession in Germany, and I highly recommend you learn something decent. And my parents look at each other. They've just been through World War II a few years ago. And they go, he may be right. If there's another, people don't have money to play golf, you're going to have no job. You didn't learn anything else. You're going to be, in trouble. So maybe you should learn something else. But I was stubborn enough. I had an offer as an assistant pro in Munich, which was an hour and a half away. So I had to live on my own at age 15. I rented a very tiny room, like the corner of this place, just with a bed, a sink, and the shower was in the hallway in a farmhouse, and rode my bicycle from there to the golf course, which was about a mile and a half. And that was my life from 15 to 18.
Yeah. Now in Germany, you had, I believe, the draft, so you had to do a compulsory military time. But there's where you first had a setback physically. What happened in all that context?
Yeah, it was, for me, the worst time of my life, next to having the yips. But I was 18 when I finished my apprenticeship as an assistant pro. I got my diploma as a head professional. And I thought I was going to make a living teaching golf. But I won the German National Close Championship when I was 17, and a businessman in Cologne said, if you're interested in playing the European Tour, just playing tournaments, I will help you financially. I said, ooh, that sounds exciting. And so I contacted him. He sponsored me. We struck a deal. And at age 18, I went to the European Tour. So 1 year on the European Tour, I did okay. Finished 56 on the money list and got exempt for the following year. Then I got drafted into the Air Force. I was 19 years old. That meant my whole career got,
put on hold.
Put on hold for 15 months. And the first 3 months was boot camp. So I had to go about 45 minutes by car is where I was stationed. And one particular morning they said, okay, today we're going to march all day long. It was in January, frozen ground, similar to here, sometimes snow, sometimes frost. 30-pound backpack, rifle, and we go out there walking around the fields and into the woods. And the guy in charge, basically not even 20 years old or whatever, but he was in charge. He said, today we're practicing low airplane attack. And so what does that mean? He goes, well, low enemy airplanes flying at you, shooting machine gun bullets at you. You throw yourself on the ground as quick as you can, so you're a smaller target than standing up. So he showed us, throw yourself on the ground, and we did that hundreds of times. Now imagine 30-pound backpack, rifle. Every time you hit the ground, that backpack does that, right, into your back. So I made it through that day. Next morning, 6 o'clock, the alarm went off. I tried to get out of bed, and I couldn't. I was in excruciating pain. Couldn't lift my hand, couldn't lift my foot, couldn't roll, couldn't do anything. So I was sharing a room with 7 others. We were 8 in a room. And they said, get out, get up. They're going to give you hell if you don't get up. You got to be on time. I said, I can't. And they thought I was joking.
Right.
Because they were drunk most nights. Because they treated us so bad that,
Coping mechanism.
Exactly. So anyways, make a long story short, they called the ambulance, sent me to the hospital, had a stress fracture in my lower back, L4, L5, and 2 bulging discs. So 6 weeks in the hospital with my feet hung up, so to take the pressure off, and I thought I was done. I thought my golf career was over.
Right.
But I was able to get back, do some rehab, and to this day have not had a back operation, even though I've had lots of back problems in the years to come as well.
That's amazing that you were able to overcome that. I mean, that usually is a sports-ending career.
Very unusual. I remember in 1989, I was in Australia, in Melbourne, playing a tournament. I shot 67 in the morning, went to the beach, went jogging. I used to love running, jogging. And I ran on the beach for maybe 45 minutes and then came back. Next morning, couldn't get out of bed. I was hunched over, totally spasmed.
Yeah.
And had to withdraw, and now I'm in Melbourne, Australia. That's halfway around the world. I was living in Florida at the time. So I had to wait 3 days to feel somewhat comfortable to get on the plane, because it's a 14 or 20-hour plane ride. I don't know how long. So I got on that plane and still a lot of pain, made it to Florida, and then saw a doctor, and 3 more weeks off, and then it was okay again. But those are the kind of things I was dealing with as I was playing professional golf, traveling a lot. I've had lots of neck pain and other things. So it is amazing that I didn't have surgery yet. And I remember in 1989, one doctor in Munich said, you're going to have surgery sooner or later, so you might as well do it now. And I said, no, it's never convenient. I'm going to wait.
Wow, that's amazing you've been able to get through that pain.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, moving to your game, and kind of a leap forward that you experienced had to do with a putter. So what were you still putting with that crooked putter? Did you keep that thing?
I probably should have.
What happened with this putter? Some older woman's putter? This is getting bad now, Bernhard.
Well,
playing with ladies' clubs.
Yeah, well, that was later on in my career, but I've had putting issues from as soon as I joined the tour. I had the yips 4 times, but on one occasion I was playing in Sunningdale, 1980 that was, and Seve Ballesteros, who was the best European player at the time, and he was watching me putt on the green at Sunningdale, and he comes over and grabs my putter and says, what are you putting with? And I said, here, hit a couple. And he hit a couple of putts and hands it back to me and walks away and said, Seve, hold on. And he turns around. What do you think of my putter? He goes, you really want to know? I said, yes. He goes, I think it's too light and it doesn't have enough loft. So I'm thinking, well, he's the best player we have in Europe and a fantastic putter. I'll better get another putter. So I walk over to the pro shop and rummage around every new putter they have, and nothing I liked, nothing at all. So I asked the guy behind the desk, is there any other putters you have? And he goes, actually, there's an old bag over there with used clubs, and you can have a look at that. And there were about 6 putters in there, and one of them looked like mine, but it had more loft and it was heavier. So I said, this looks good. Can I try this on the putting green for 10 minutes? He goes, yeah, just go ahead and bring it back. So putted, rolled good. I came back. I said, I want to buy this. How much is it? He said, oh, yeah, that was from an old lady. She gave up golf. She was like 85 or whatever. And it's only £5. I said, perfect. So best money I ever invested.
It's like a $7-8 putter, right?
Yeah, exactly. I finished third that week, second, and then I won my first big tournament the third week. So 3 weeks in a row. And thank you, Sevi, for a wonderful chip.
No, that's amazing. Well, a good friend, right?
Yeah.
Is there that camaraderie on the tour like that? It's competitive, but are you also friends?
Yes, that's the unique thing about golf. We are competitive, and we want to beat each other's brains out, basically, when we're out competing. But at the same time, right after the round, we go sit together, have lunch, and tell jokes and stories, and ask about each other's families, and we even help each other. We give each other tips on the range, or if we see something else.
Yeah. Let's move to the Masters. I've had a chance to play the Masters, not in the Masters, but play Augusta. I needed to correct that very quickly, didn't I? But beautiful course. It's kind of the dream. I called it the Disneyland for golfers, right? You step onto the property and boom, you're in a special place. But that's kind of where a lot of spiritual things happen for you as well, right? I mean, that you won it, I think it was in 1985?
It was, yeah. I won in 85 after finishing in second in the British Open twice, just in 84 and 81, I think. But on the ninth hole, I walked to the 10th tee box, and I had a quick glance, and there's this big leaderboard, and I saw Curtis Strange at the top, and I was next, I think. And I said, on live camera and all that, Jesus Christ, I couldn't believe I was 4 shots behind Curtis Strange. And I thought nothing of it. I thought it was just a powerful expression. So, but move on. I went to have dinner with the members at the club that evening, and then went to a party. There was an Australian fellow, 2 of them. I won the Australian Masters just a month earlier, and they put money on me. They were betting. They won more money than I won winning the Masters. Yeah, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I got 110,000. They made 125,000 on the bet. Anyways, that's just.
That didn't bother you, though, did it?
No. They had a wonderful party and barbecue and all that, and we went over and celebrated with them. But that night, I couldn't sleep at all. And the next night, and I'm going, what's going on? You've just become a major champion. That's what you've dreamed about, and you just got married a year ago. You got a beautiful young wife. You have money. You have cars. You're on top of the world. I was ranked number 1 in the world when the world rankings came out shortly afterwards. I had everything this world could offer for a 27-year-old.
27
and more. But I had an emptiness, and I had no idea what it was, no clue. So we drove to Hilton Head for the next tournament. I played a practice round with Bobby Clempett, who was one of the young superstars at the time. He was supposed to be the next Jack Nicklaus, and he was a believer. So we finished our practice round on Tuesday, and he goes, Bernie, why don't you come to the Bible study on Wednesday night, tomorrow night? And I go, Bible study? What exactly are you doing? I grew up Catholic. I didn't have my own Bible. I went to church, confession, try to be a good boy, kind of good human being. So he said, we have this chaplain, Larry Moody is his name, and he comes every Wednesday. We spend an hour together, and he either teaches out of the Bible or about a topic, that can relate to our lives. So I was very vague. I said, well, Bobby, I'm not sure I'm going to come, but thanks for the invite, and I'll talk to my wife, Vicky, and we'll see. So mentioned it to Vicky. We decided to go. We had nothing else to do Wednesday night.
Yeah, nothing else.
And
let's go to a Bible study.
3 days earlier, on Sunday evening, when I made that comment, Jesus Christ, Curtis Strange is 4 shots ahead of me. Larry Moody, the chaplain, and Scott Simpson, another believer, were watching on TV. And, they heard me swear on national television, international television. And they said, let's pray for this German fellow, that one day he would use Jesus Christ in a different way.
Wow.
And here I am 3 days later walking into the Bible study. That Larry Moody is teaching, and Scott Simpson, who was a skeptic for 3.5 years, he went to the Bible study to prove that the Christians are all idiots and they need a crutch and Christianity is rubbish. Took him 3.5 years to become a Christian. Anyways,
Yeah.
I walk into the room, and what does Larry Moody teach on? John 3:3. You have to be born again. If he had taught of anything else, I would have said, yeah, I've heard that before. I heard that Sermon on the Mount. I heard, Jesus did this wonder or that. I've been going to church for 25 years. But he was teaching about born again, and the Catholic Church where I grew up never talked about being born again. They had talked about being a good person, earning your way there. And the Bible says nobody can earn their way there. No one. So I was very curious. I wanted to know the truth. So I went to Larry Moody after the study and said, what kind of Bible are you using? And he flipped it over and said, oh, it's the NIV, New International Version. But they all more or less say the same thing, no matter what version you get. And he says, I recommend you buy your own Bible and start studying. And if you have questions, you can ask me. To make a long story short, about 3 months later, after going to more Bible studies, start reading the Bible, it was very clear to me that I had to be born again. And that I was never good enough on my own to earn my way to heaven, but Jesus did all that for me. I just had to believe in him. So I got on my knees, prayed the prayer, the acceptance prayer, and that emptiness that I had was gone.
Yeah. I mean, that's so I could see the emotion in your face even today. And there's years ago, but that ability to leap to a point of faith, it's an amazing transition, right? That hole in your heart. Yeah. So many people, Bernhard, have that hole in their heart. I've talked to gay activists, and they've talked about, if we just get marriage, it'll fill that void in our heart. And I will say to them, I don't think that'll do it. And sure enough, to their credit, a couple of them came back, talked to me, and said, it's not filling that space.
Right. Well, it's like me. I had everything, I had everything you could. Earthly, I had more than I could even have imagined, coming from a little village and being a bricklayer's son, being a multimillionaire and playing golf with kings and queens and the heads of state and having success all over the world and all that. It's like incredible, but I still had that emptiness because God was missing in my life.
Yeah. And what an amazing transition. In that regard, I mean, you've had so much success in every direction. I just met your son and his wife and your little granddaughter, who is so charming. She's a bundle of energy. So often we look at that and we see this in Proverbs. Is that a great source of joy for you, your 4 children, your grandchildren? I mean, when you think of your family, just speak to the importance of that.
Oh, absolutely. Family was always important to me, and besides God, my next priority, really. So we're very blessed that all of our children believe in God, and we have now 4 grandkids, which is, a whole nother story. It just gives you purpose, on top of obviously sharing the good news. But one thing I also wanted to mention, when I became a believer, my brother was my manager, 5 years older than me.
Okay.
And he was watching me like a hawk. He thought I'd fallen into the deep end. I've joined a sect or something like that. And he told me that a year and a half later. He says, I've been watching you, and I was really worried about you, but I want what you got.
Wow. That's terrific.
So he became a believer. My parents became believers. I mean, there's a story, but sorry.
No, I appreciate the emotion. It's real.
We built a home in Germany, my wife and I, because I thought I was going to play on the European tour, not the U.S. tour. And we had the staircase, wooden staircase going up, and put a little niche in the wall, and we put this was before I was a believer, put Mary in there, wood carving from over Amagao with
Wow.
Mother Mary with the Jesus, because that's what Catholics often pray to, right? Well, one day when I became a believer, I didn't want to pray to Mary anymore, so I took the wood carving out of there and put it in the attic. My mother sees Mary is missing. She goes, "Where's Mary?" I say, "Sit down." So we had a long discussion. I said, "Where in the Bible does it say I have to pray to Mary? If you can show it to me, I will pray to Mary, but if not, then accept Mary is gone and pray to Jesus, pray to God, because you don't have to go through Mary to get to God. You can pray directly to him." So we had many discussions along that line, and finally they all turned to become believers.
Oh man, that is exciting.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's just a life well led, and I mean, even again, that emotion that you have. But what a beautiful thing God allowed in your life to draw your family into relationship with Him.
Yeah,
and
well,
all through your perseverance.
I think the Bible talks about that, right? There's blessings of 1,000 generations or many generations, but there can also be curses.
Probably right here at the end, that idea of legacy, we've touched on it a bit, but when you look back, you've had it all. You're still doing great, winning tournaments, making money, 67, you're still doing great. But when you look at it overall, that legacy that you hope your children, your grandchildren, all the great-great-grandchildren that are going to see that you were their great-great-grandpa, right? Look what he accomplished. But what would you say to them that they have to know? And that's speaking to the rest of us as well. You've got the money, you've got the fame, but most importantly, you have the Lord.
Yeah, you have to have a personal relationship with Jesus. That's really what matters, because it's all about Him. He created us for a purpose. We're His. We're only living in this world for whatever amount of time it is. It's like a little dot on a long line of eternity. So the big question is, where do you spend eternity? In hell or in heaven? And how do you live your life here on earth? Including myself, we're so focused on what we're doing today, and if things go wrong, we get upset. And instead of having an eternal view, we have a worldly view, and I fall into that trap many times. Like right now, I'm focused on the U.S. Senior Open because that's what I'm going to do.
Well, you're teeing off in a couple hours, so sorry we interrupted that.
No,
we're grateful, that's for sure.
It's not, but that's just, we're so caught up, and the evil one has an amazing way of keeping us busy. We have these iPhones, handies.
Yeah.
I mean, we can be reached day and night, and it takes our time, and we don't spend enough time anymore reading the Bible. It's just being still, spending time with God, which should be the priority of our lives. But the evil one's keeping us busy. We keep ourselves busy, and it's less and less of that. And sadly, I have to say, I've lived in America now 40 years. This country was built on spiritual principles, right? In God we trust. Many are moving away from that, and it's not doing us any good.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. The opportunity to share Christ, as Scott Simpson did with you and other players that are Christian, Mark O'Mara, I know there's a number of really solid believers, both in the younger PGA Tour, but also the senior tour. Have you been emboldened to do that? Are you able to talk to other players to say, hey,
Absolutely.
I was where you're at, but let me share with you?
Yeah, we still have Bible study every Wednesday or Thursday, depending what tour you play on. We just had one actually last night here at Colorado Springs. And we always try to encourage non-believers to think about it, those that are sitting on the fence, or just find the truth, Isn't there more to life than just the few years we live on this earth? There's got to be more. And there's more than just making money or being successful. There's just far more important things. As I said, where do we spend eternity? That should be one of the big questions we should all ask. And
the question. Well, Bernhard, we so appreciate you being with us. We know you got to go do your thing. But thank you, first and foremost, for just standing for Christ unashamedly. And when you look back to that comment at the Masters of using his name in vain, do you feel that forgiveness? Do you know the Lord said, okay?
Absolutely. I felt that forgiveness as soon as I accepted him. I felt like he promised, all of our sins are forgiven, past, present, and future, if you accept him and you repent. And the one thing we didn't discuss, and I hope I have one more minute.
Sure.
The second time I won the Masters in '93, so now 8 years later, I was a Christian. And they take me to Butler Cabin again, and the question was, is the first victory more important or your second Masters? Which one means more? And I said something along the lines, well, they're both very important. First one is first time I became a major champion, but to me personally, the second one is more important because it's Easter Sunday today and we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I believe I'm the only guy in Butler Cabin on interviews that mentioned Jesus Christ twice, once in a bad way, once in a good way.
Well, I love the sense of humor in that. And I believe God understands, certainly forgives you. And what a wonderful testimony, Bernhard. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah.
Boom. Thanks. Well done. Thank you.
What an inspiring conversation with Bernhard Langer on Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. And I'm so glad that you had that opportunity to visit with him.
John, he's had a fascinating career, but he is such a humble man, and you could see that in the discussion. He reminded us that only Jesus answers our deepest needs in life. And it's so inspirational to see how God used Bernhard to bring his family to Christ. I mean, it's the ultimate good story. And it was another golfer, PGA golfer, who spoke up about Jesus and made a difference in his life. So it's a reminder for us to be a Christ-like example to others in our workplace or neighborhood as God's ambassadors. Jesus said you must be born again to spend eternity with him when you die. If you've never made that decision to trust Christ, we want to invite you to do that today. And we have an online article called Coming Home, which tells you how to begin a relationship with Jesus Christ, and we have the link for you. And then also, Bernhard told us the story of his mother being encouraged by doctors to abort him as a baby. She and her husband, thankfully, didn't give in to that pressure. Focus on the Family has a program called Option Ultrasound that provides ultrasound machines and training for pregnancy centers, encouraging women to choose life for their child. We've done it for over 20 years, and we have the metrics. $60 saves a baby's life through Option Ultrasound. And I want to encourage you to give to that project to save children and help those moms.
Yeah, call us today to donate and find the links in the program description below as well. And on behalf of the entire team, thanks for watching Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.